Alright guys, I wanted to talk through a recent removal we did. A couple of removals actually. So we removed this pine and a Bradford pear off the back of the house. The pine was kind of two pines. One real small one and one larger one joined at the base. The Bradford pear was way up on the house. The pine was a little bit further away, but still right on the patio, tearing up the bricks. So it's just gonna talk through how we took these two down. I cut out a lot of the in-between time where I'm just slowly climbing up. Mostly just showing, making the cuts and that sort of thing. This first one was a pretty straightforward removal, the pine here. Pretty standard rigging. I just climbed up, took my ropes with me, and just tossed the rigging rope up over the next couple of limbs as I went to rig these limbs down. We took our time. I was out doing my CDL the last few weeks, taking the class, so I was only climbing one day a week. When you get out of the rhythm of climbing day in and day out, it's nicer to just take it a little slower, take it easy. So I didn't bother climbing way up, setting a pulley, anything like that. We just kept it simple. Pretty tight backyard. We had a few targets. We had the patio right there, the pavers and stuff right off the back of the tree. We had the deck on the front side. We weren't right over the deck, but close enough to need to manage it. And then they had this little garden box that we had to watch out for. So we laid a mat over that just so little stuff wouldn't land on it. And we just rigged down the larger limbs. I'm using the Husqvarna T540 XP Mark III in this video. It's a great saw. I love it for removals. The only problem I'm having with it is if I let it idle on my harness, hanging upright, it wants to die. And then I have to choke it every time to get it started. One quick note on this limb that I just did here. This was poor preparation on my part. So I got the other stem of the pine off to the right, and I cut this limb and it landed right on top of that small one going off to the left. So you'll see I was speeding things up by using speed line slings and just hooking them onto a bowline on the rigging point, or the rigging rope, just so I could do 2, 3, 4 limbs at a time just to make it a little bit faster, but still keep it simple. But yeah, so I cut the first one. Now it's just hanging there. So instead of trying to fight another branch through this, I came down. You'll see right here. I come down, I trim off that little limb off of that pine. I was able to land it in a clear spot. So then I won't have other limbs getting hung up. One thing I've learned doing tree work is that if you think, it'll be fine, and you leave a stub or you leave a limb in the way or something, you're going to hit it. You're going to get tangled up, and it's not going to be fun. You're going to fight it later. So if you just take the time, take the brief moment to clean something up, get it out of the way, make space, then it'll make the whole job a lot smoother, and you'll fight things a lot less. So just take the time to set it up right. The other thing you'll notice that I do is I clean off all the stubs from any of the limbs that I'm taking off. I notice a lot of guys in videos that I watch leave stubs, and that's just not a good plan. If you don't know, those can be a major hazard for cracking a rib. If you gaff out and you land on one of those, you can get a puncture wound in your rib cage, you can break ribs, either of which is just a bad day, or you can just get a really bad bruise. So when you're doing a removal, you're not pruning, you're not pruning to clean up a tree. Definitely cut through that branch collar and don't leave stubs, because if you slip and hit one of those, that's going to be a really bad day. I think the other note, when you're using, this happens when you're speed lining, and then also just when you're hooking up slings on just a regular rigging rope like this. It's important to note you really have to pay attention to the way you hook stuff up. You'll notice one or two here that I do that I didn't really set up perfect. I'm cutting really close to the slings, and I got to really watch the rope. If you set them up right, you typically don't have to do that. If you can get them lined up and cut them in the right order so that they just hang the right way, where you don't have to worry about it. You don't have a sling pulling over and holding weight on the top of the rope. That can be one of the things that really messes you up when you first get started doing this kind of thing. So you really just want to try and pay attention to what direction those various limbs are going to fall, and stack your slings the right way. That'll make you a lot more efficient, and it'll keep you from cutting your rope or your slings. Getting close to the top of this pine here. Once we get through this pine, we end up moving over to the Bradford pear. I go ahead and leave the tops on the pine so that it doesn't flap around. Anybody who's done a spar knows how springy those things can get, and we used the pine to rig the Bradford pear off the house. There wasn't access for a crane. Wouldn't have made sense for a crane since we had this pine to use. And there wasn't access for a bucket truck or anything like that. So that Bradford pear, using this pine, was actually pretty key to us being able to do that Bradford pear smoothly, which you'll see that here in a little bit. So I got my final tie-in point set up for this tree. I go ahead and leave the tops on so it's not all crazy springy. It's still got a little bit of resistance blowing around in the wind. And then I'm setting up my rigging point, and you can see the Bradford pear right there in that shot. So from there, we're going to rig the small pine off the front. With the GRCS, we're going to lift it up, so I'm notching towards the rigging point. Then we're going to pick it up with that Makita drill there, which is a really awesome combo. The GRCS with the Makita drill. It's like having a crane in the backyard. Make sure I got a nice good notch. And then off we go, picking it up. So I stripped off all the brush on the way up so it wouldn't be catching the deck and stuff like that. And we were mostly just rigging a log with the little top there. Nice and easy. Watching for kickback. There we go. So from here, we get set up to lower it. Go ahead and pull it off, get it hanging. This is really important. Watch how he's doing those big, exaggerated turns off the GRCS. If you pull straight out, you risk the rope spinning off the end of that winch. I've seen it happen. It's not awesome. So you go big, exaggerated movements when you're unwinding that rope. All right. So we go ahead and cut off a chunk here, lighten it up a little bit, make it easier to manage, and lay the whole thing down. So there we go, we got it. Got that chunk off so we could lay it down, and just pulled it out. And I about fell over because I was tripping on my climbing gear. Got my guys laughing at me. Alright, so after that we started working on the Bradford pear. I dropped off what I could just into the backyard. This initial little bit, I just had to clean it up, get some of the limbs out of the way. I still had my climb line over in the pine to make it real easy to crawl up this thing. But with some of the limbs growing towards the pine, that kind of messed up my climbing rope. So I spend a few minutes kind of cleaning that up, and then we start tip tying everything. So at that point, once I kind of get these limbs cleaned up, we pretty much just, I climbed up, tip tied, then we used the GRCS to pull it over, and we tossed a rope on the butt end to keep it from swinging crazy towards the deck. You'll see as we go here. But this is just kind of the initial cleanup. Started with a small one up in the tree, just enough to kind of pull it away from the deck. And then the rest of these, it's really nice because I was able to climb up, tie it off, and then cut it from the ground. I think we had 6-7 leads coming off of this thing, and I was able to do all the cuts from the ground. So I just climbed up, tip tied it, came to the ground, and managed it from there. Which made it pretty smooth overall. Pretty smooth, pretty controlled. Yeah, so here we go. I got the first one tied up, got the butt end controlled. We just locked it off in the GRCS. That one wasn't going to have a major swing to it, so the ground guys were working up front, cutting everything down to get it in the trailer. Our chipper was down, so this was just me and one guy, and we were able to manage it. Right there, lay it down. And I cut out us trimming everything up. That's boring. So on the rest of these, I kind of tied 3 or 4 together and then cut the one major lead down at the bottom. Go, lead number 2. All of these were just kind of rinse and repeat, which is pretty nice. I think the only thing I would change about this setup is I would have redirected the GRCS off to another tree in the backyard so that my guy there wasn't having to duck and hide behind the tree to keep from getting smacked by the twigs of these things as they came over. For the most part he was fine, but it was just unnecessary. There we go, tying up number 3. Sign up number 4. I didn't put a hinge on this one. Looking back on it, I probably should have. It would have broken off easier. Just wouldn't have had to fight to get the thing totally free. Yeah, I had him tension this one up before I got down on the ground just to make sure it set up in a good spot. I was pulling, you can see I was pulling, 3 or 4 of these things together. I think one of the really important pieces of this is not underestimating the being tip tied. What would make this go really wrong is if you thought you had one of these tip tied, but it was actually tip heavy. That would make this go really, really poorly. That could be a really bad day. So I was pretty careful to make sure I got pretty high up on these. And that's why I was tying 3 or 4 of them together to really suck them up tight. thought this whole tree went really well, all things considered. Just where we were in the back, tight spot. Didn't have stuff swing towards the house. That deck was super flimsy, so we were really making sure we stayed off of that. This last one I left in the cleanup and climbing up and tying off the next piece, just kind of to give you guys a feel for what we were doing and how that was working. But that was just this one here. This last one was literally touching the roof, and it had such a hard lean back that other way. I didn't want to just swing it like we did the others. So this one, I kept the butt end all the way down to the ground, pretty much. Basically, cut it to a stump, keeping the weight down. The nice thing about tip tying it is once you roll the thing over, the butt end just sits on the ground, and then you can just kind of lay it where you want from there. Cut it into pieces as you bring it down. So that was the main goal for this one. So, and we also secured the butt end. You'll see that we throw a pulley on there and tie off the butt. But then it was such a long pull over towards the rigging point. We just wanted to keep it slow and controlled and keep it close to the ground. Tried to keep my flip line on as much as I could as I was climbing up and down this thing, just so I didn't go for that big old swing over towards the deck. That would have sucked. Yeah, so I went ahead and just did the same kind of notch I did for most of the other branches that we took off. Just standard notch, and then tied off the butt end. Kept my hinge here as long as I could, just got it just enough where he could pull it over. These Bradford pears break as soon as they start moving anyway, but the idea was to give it a good hinge as far as we could, pull it over and set it down. Alright, and then didn't feel the need to have you guys watch me get all the way back up in that pine. So got up there, topped this thing out. Dropped a few logs. And then we dropped the stem. That's pretty much it. Overall, super smooth day, super smooth job. Everything went really well. A couple little things that I would have done better was just the rigging on the pine. Just made it a little smoother. Not had those darn slings getting in the way. I would have said a couple of those I would have just set up a little different. And then I would have cleaned off that front part a little more. As far as the Bradford pear, I'm not sure how I would have made that smoother. I thought the plan went well. The plan we had worked. Things went really smooth. And, you know, everybody's safe. Nothing got damaged. Nothing was close to getting damaged. It was just a plan and a well-executed one that I thought went really well. And then by this point in the day, I was getting a little Dutchman on my hinges, so had to clean it up here. But we got it. Landed our logs nice and flat. to bouncing. Alright guys, thanks for checking it out. Like, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave any feedback in the comments.